Okay.
Let's see, let me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You just have the editor open?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right. So we should be going live. So for those of you watching right now, just okay. I'm gonna start over because It's
Yeah.
definitely
You just have the
confirmed that
editor
we've
open?
gone live on
Yep.
my end. So
Okay, yeah, I can see it.
okay. Um. All right. Oh, so I'm gonna get be going live. Audio feedback because I had the stream open in a tab. Okay, so everyone, let us know what the audio levels are like. I'm going to try to get things balanced so that both Ryan's audio and my audio are about even.
I
So,
guess I should test it here. I'm testing now. How does
okay,
my
yeah,
voice
you can
sound
test.
compared? Well, actually, I hold on. Let me see. I don't know that. Well, actually, let me try. Let me turn it on. You might get feedback though.
Okay. I mean, I should only be getting the audio from your microphone that's coming in through Discord.
Here, I'm testing now. It seems like they're pretty even
Okay.
because I'm
As long
listening
as
to the
it's close
stream
enough,
on the side.
that
Yeah.
should be fine. The levels that I'm seeing in my streaming software look fairly even. So, okay. So then, well, welcome to the stream, everyone. And to get started, I have actually been doing some more work on this system this morning. So it's not where we left off from the previous stream because I wanted to have some more stuff figured out so that there's more to show and more to explain with as opposed to just me trying to rapidly put stuff together while you were answering questions, Ryan.
That's right. I remember.
Okay, so until we get some questions and more activity in chat, I'll go ahead and show you where I'm at. Things are mostly working except for pivots, which I was in the middle of trying to put together before we started streaming, and I was running into some issues. It's probably a simple fix, and you'll probably know the fix to get things working properly. But
Pivots are your favorite state, though.
so we now have full 360-degree cycling. We're no longer just stuck in the forward-facing hemisphere. The same goes for starts and stops.
Oh, nice. Are you using blend spaces?
Yep. And
Nice. There we
pivots
go.
are somewhat working,
Oh, I see what's going on.
but it's a complete mess with how they're put together, and occasionally that happens, which you just saw,
Yeah.
and the
Okay.
and well, we'll get to the pivot state. I know something is wrong because the way I'm calculating the locomotion angle for the blend space just I know it doesn't work, and I'm essentially doing some cheating. It's the Unreal Engine equivalent of duct tape and hope, keeping the pivot state kind of working right now.
Wow.
But I figured I'll start going through some of the other states for everyone watching and everyone who will be watching the recording of this stream on the channel. You'll probably want to watch the previous stream or some of it. Once this stream is done, I'll probably cut both streams together into kind of a compilation video of some sort. That way you guys don't have to watch through 30 or so minutes of us realizing that I had the wrong version of the plugin installed and trying to get the right updated bug-free version of the plugin installed. Speaking of which, I'm still on 5.2 with the 5.2 version of UUS and the AMS plugin. So
Nothing's
I
been
haven't updated to
updated.
5.3 as
I mean,
far as the... Go
functionality
ahead.
hasn't changed
Mm-hmm.
in the plugin. It just I had to do some stuff under the hood to make sure that because Epic changed how they did things. They
Okay.
removed certain functions and replaced them, but the functionality itself of the plugin hasn't changed between the two engine versions.
Okay. So I will not be making use of any potential additional coverage that the new version of the UUS animation set has with the
Oh,
cycling and
spins.
spins,
Okay.
which are Well, that's what comes to the top of my mind right now. So, what this is looking like right now is everything is bound to a single blend space player node for these states. And in the case of starts, the start blend space is selected based on a hip facing enumerator, which I'm just calculating based off of the locomotion angle. So if I go into this blueprint thread safe update animation function, which is just a function that belongs to the anim instance class, and I'm overriding it. And inside of this update orientation data function, between the last stream and this one, I've collapsed everything down into their own functions, and I've organized some things a bit. We're going to ignore the hip facing curve and just look at this portion of the logic right now. I get the absolute value of the locomotion angle. If that is greater than 90 plus a dead zone of 20, which will go in either direction depending on whether or not our current hip facing is backwards or forward, we'll either set it to backwards or forward. And that's just used to select the blend space, either hips forward in the motion or hips backward in the motion, based on the locomotion angle. And I add that dead zone so that I can have some room to rotate the camera around without immediately switching between hips forward and backward, just like you see here. Of course, if I move the camera quickly, that happens, but more slowly, it doesn't just switch back and forth on its own.
And so you don't have spins implemented here?
No.
Just for those who are watching.
Yep,
There's
no
spin
spins
state.
implemented. So you're just stuck in backwards into motion or forwards into motion, depending on what your previous direction was, or just more accurately, depending on your locomotion angle.
I do want to highlight something too. I noticed that when you started, you went back and then you went to the right. And the benefit of having blend spaces and using my plugin is that you can actually. Well, okay, that wasn't
that did not
that
work.
was.
I don't know what.
Maybe I think that maybe there's not logic to switch between blend spaces during your single start state.
That's right.
But what I was going to say is that if you remain in the single blend space, you can still change direction within that blend space. Wow, I can't talk. During the start state, and it looks not horrible. It actually looks much better than just using sequences. And you can do other things to make it look even better. But yeah, see, that looks pretty good for being a single asset.
It does.
Yeah. Do you have the foot locking node or something?
I do have the foot locking node.
Okay, that's why. Okay,
the foot
I'm seeing what I'm
node,
seeing.
Yep.
Or whatever it's called, yeah.
I'm not sure if I need the start initial hip facing enumerator. I just created it like 30 minutes ago, and I don't even remember what I'm using it for.
This is the setup? Oh, you don't have do you in your update? Oh, is this what I'm looking at now? Oh yeah, it is what I'm looking at. So this is your update. Oh yeah, this is good. And then you have this is something we can show people too, like in the plugin or in the using my plugin, the node has the option to inertially blend when the asset player changes whatever asset it's playing.
Yep, we can just update a variable directly inside of a function, or I believe anywhere in the animation blueprint, because the variable is bound, but it's nice and organized to keep it inside a function bound to a node in the animation graph somewhere. And then when this gets updated, Ryan's node from his plugin will automatically do an inertialized blend from the previously selected asset to the currently selected asset.
Only if it's checked to be on, which I can't see. Do you have inertially blend? Should inertially blend checked to true?
I think
so.
Oh
yeah,
yep.
blending.
Yep.
Yeah, it's by default set to true because I don't understand why you wouldn't want it to be that, but it's optional, of course, if you want to check it off.
So, in the case of the hips backward into motion animations for starts and stops, the blend spaces are for hips forward and hips backward are both mapped to a range of -90 to +90. Because you can't map a clean range from -100, from negative, okay, let me start over there. I misspoke. The range of -90 to +90 on the other end of that 360-degree sphere or circle that the locomotion angle is made up of isn't continuous. You go from 90 up to 180, and then -90 down to -180, and -180 and +180 share that middle point on the bottom half of that hemisphere. So to get that hemisphere into a blend space, Ryan lined them up with -90 to +90, and then
I think it'll be hard for people to follow that unless there's a picture to go along with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can follow it because I did it, but
Yep.
I think if I were listening, I'd be like, okay, I just hear a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, it's difficult to, it's much easier to explain or to comprehend with a visual aid if it's a new concept. So I apologize for not having one ready, everyone. But, so we have to make some adjustments to the locomotion angle for the hips backward into motion animations. And in this case, I'm taking the locomotion angle, I'm adding, okay, here, I'm going to go ahead and, nope, not the program I'm trying to open.
So someone just said that there's a Unreal Slackers Mega Jam stream right now. I had no idea.
I have no idea. That's why we're not watching it, and that's why our stream conflicts with this one, because we somehow are both unaware.
Awesome. What timing we have.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, I was wondering what was happening. Okay. Oh, whiteboard time. I've never done this.
So we have a circle. That's the best circle I can draw with my mouse. And so we have 0 degrees at the top, 90 degrees on both sides, but on the left it is negative, so that'd be like -45 right there, +45 here.
Dang, that's pretty good with a mouse.
Well, I'll take the compliment.
Some people write like that with a pencil. I know, because I grade their homework.
And then here at the bottom, because on the left we have negative and the right we have positive, both -180 and +180 share a spot. And this is that locomotion angle. It can be calculated given the character's velocity vector and the character's rotation with the calculate direction function inside of an animation blueprint that is built into an animation blueprint. I can go there now. So in this case, I'm using the velocity vector to get a locomotion angle. I'm also getting an acceleration-based locomotion angle, which is just mapped directly to the input. This acceleration comes from the character movement component, and it's not calculated physically as the change in velocity over time. It's used to set an acceleration value in the character movement component directly, which results in the character gaining velocity over time, which is clamped by a maximum walk speed setting.
Yep.
So the blend space can map a set of animations to a range. In this case, both the hips forward blend space is mapped from -90 to 90, and the hips backward blend space is mapped from -90 to 90. And my mouse handwriting is getting worse as we go on.
Yeah, I think I might have to take back my compliment.
Yeah. And so this circle is just kind of represents the direction of movement of the character. Moving forward, the locomotion angle is 0. Moving backward, the locomotion angle can be considered both negative 180 and positive 180. And so having that negative and positive 180 share that space creates the issues because there isn't a continuous range for the hips backward into motion blend space. So all those hip forward into motion animations for the blend space go from negative 90 to positive 90, so right and left, and take up a hemisphere. And the same is true for the hips backward into motion. So we have to perform some math using the locomotion angle to map the hips backward into motion blend space to get the locomotion angle out of this hemisphere and into this one to select the proper place in the blend space to play the proper pose.
To be clear, the hips backward does cover the bottom half hemisphere. Like the animations themselves cover the bottom half. But then if you are putting in a value, that's a pretty cool color. If you're putting in a value, there will be a discontinuity and a jump. If you hit negative 180 / 180, you'll toggle between those, or I don't think toggle is the right word. You'll move between those and it'll create a jump. So you have to, in the blend space itself, organize it such that the animations, though they cover the back hemisphere, you set them up in the blend space as if they covered the front, and then you just map angles. It's really kind of this could be a good like dedicated video to explain this, because then we'd have time to think through how to present it in a clearer fashion.
I don't want to stay here for so long, but with that context, that is why we add 180 degrees to the locomotion angle and then multiply it by -1. And then we normalize the axis, which just takes an angle of any value and remaps it to a -180 to +180 degree range. And so that's going to map that value between -180 and -90, or 90 and 180 to -90 up to 90. And so we do that mapping in a function bound to the node that plays the blend space, and we use it to set a float, and that float is used to drive the blend space itself. And so it takes that as an input, and we'll use that to determine the point in the blend space to draw the pose from.
There's one more thing in the blend space that it's a feature I added that I didn't really tell people I added since I originally created it.
Okay.
If you go to the blending section in the details pane, there's a part that says should inertially blend upon, I can't read it, rapid
axis value change.
So that's when I did that, because I was having problems sometimes where I would, like, my input would rapidly change, and then so the blend space would rapidly change.
Okay.
Which I know you can do smoothing in the blend space, but I don't like to do that because I'd rather have all my controls elsewhere and the blend space stay at its default settings. So I did inertially blending in that scenario.
That's an interesting approach.
It's just an option for people as well. And you can define what rapid change means. Like the blend trigger thresholds will become editable if you toggle on that option.
I'm trying to remember where the setting is to scale up the user interface for the project. That way it's easier for you to see and easier for everyone else in the stream to see. I forgot to do that with this project.
Well, I'm viewing it through Discord, so my screen is by
that's
default
be
minimized.
Even smaller. Yep. Okay.
So maybe others won't have as much of a problem. Or maybe they will. I don't know. By the way, I learned something from watching you right now. I didn't know that you could click back in blueprints after all these years.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you just found that out, because I would have hated for you to go longer without being able to do that.
I'm like, this is so annoying. Why can't I go back to where I was? And I'm an idiot because it's right there. Are you looking at something off screen?
Yep. I'm not finding it quickly through Google, so I'll come back to scale with UI if you guys really want me to, and chat for the stream. But if not, then I'll just continue on normally. So other than calculating the locomotion angle and selecting the blend space inside of these functions bound to the blend space player, everything for calculating the start matching distance is the same as it was in the previous video, and I think that's just the only other thing that was bound. So similar approach with the cycle blend space player. This doesn't really need orientation warping. I'm not sure why I threw it in there, because we have 360 degrees of coverage here.
You said you weren't using it yet, though, right? You don't have the newest animations?
Correct, but since we have both blend spaces and it's switching between them and blending between them, it has both half hemisphere blend spaces that it's choosing between. So
that's true. I had put, when I didn't have the newest set of animations, I did orientation warping just for the case where you would rapidly switch.
Okay, that does make sense.
Maybe it's not needed. I was messing around with it, so maybe that's why
it's better
put it there. Maybe we talked about it and we forgot. But it may not be necessary.
Then I have stride warping in here as well. Just a single function bound here to update it. The same locomotion angle calculation to drive the x-axis of the blend space. And then again, just choosing between two preset blend space assets based on that hip facing variable. For stop, similar to start, we just set up a stop animation once. This is a bit different, and I believe I covered this in the previous live stream. I did. So,
One thing is, notice how some people may be aware of this, but the node itself right now has that little fast path lightning bolt at the top right of the node. So, for those who don't know, if you do calculations inside the state here, you can't get the fast path. But if you set all the variables up in another function, like Ethan has done in the bound functions, then you can get the fast path, which increases the efficiency somehow. I don't know how it works under the hood, but you want that little lightning bolt to be there.
It's not something I've covered. For those of you who are regular viewers of my channel, I haven't covered that yet in the bump my microphone. Hopefully that didn't come through in the Locomotion series I'm currently doing, but it is something I'm planning on touching on and showing, because it is definitely the ideal way to structure things. Just having variables connected up to the nodes directly in the animation graphs, as opposed to doing any sort of calculations or processing them through functions within the graphs themselves.
Yeah, it's a very simple way to increase the speed of your animation graph.
I believe if you can even go to project settings, and if I search, I'm not sure, there's a way to get the compilation of this of an animation blueprint to give you warnings when things aren't optimized for fast path inside of your animation graph.
That's cool.
It's in the documentation page for fast path, so you can search that up and see exactly where it's at. I do not recall where it's at in here. Okay, so moving on. So the pivot state, I have it set up so that it can be entered from the start state and the cycle state. And I have a state machine here so that you can pivot while inside the pivot state to another pivot. And this is where things have started to kind of come apart. Okay.
In the pivot state, the entry, you said the start and the cycle state. What about the stop state? Should you also be able to enter from the...
you should be able to.
Okay.
Otherwise, you might get stuck going through start. Yeah, you're right. Otherwise, you'll be stuck in start and till you get through into cycle, and then it'll be... Well, I guess you have the blend time from stop to start, and then it can jump straight into pivot once that blend time has completed, I think. It depends actually on the max transitions per frame in the state machine, I believe.
Yeah, Lyra has it default to 1. I should max transitions per frame.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
It was giving me issues when it wasn't 1.
Yep, you can run into issues when it's not 1 as well.
But ALS v4 has it set to 3. But I don't know if Caleb was aware of that. He seemed to be aware of a lot, though. So
yeah,
I would think that was probably intentional on his part, but I also think that Epic, when they created Lyra, set it to 1 intentionally as well. So it depends on the project.
Yep, it depends. Okay, so okay,
we got
a couple more messages in chat. Yep, from Gustavo. So thanks. I'm glad that the videos are helpful. That's definitely why I'm making them. Trying to create some good explanation heavy Locomotion system content for YouTube, because I was never satisfied with anything I could find tutorial wise back when I was trying to figure out this stuff for myself and getting into the Locomotion related side of the engine.
Yeah, even now I haven't found any good tutorials. They're all just like, hey, learn how to make a blend space, which just involves taking animation sequences and chucking them in. And
yep, and
like, well, that's kind of useless.
Yep, but still part of my plan is to come out with a blend space video to try to do something that's on that kind of somewhat basic level as the other videos, but actually explain the issues that people encounter with blend spaces that result from hip blending between animations with the hips facing into and away from motion, which is pretty much the root cause of a lot of foot sliding and bunny hopping in blend spaces, and those blend issues at certain locomotion angles.
Yeah, so and you could also that's one of the reasons I made my pack, was to address all those issues so that you could have all states blendable within a blend space. Where if you buy most animation packs, actually I think all that I've seen, I could be missing some, but you can't blend all star animations in a blend space or stops or pivots, because making things work in a blend space is actually really, you have to think about the animations before you make them and plan that they will blend. Otherwise, they just usually will not. It's not by accident that things blend. And the loop always works. That's why when they do their tutorials in blend spaces, they always just chuck in loop animations. But even as you said, Ethan, even those can have bunny hopping issues when you have hips forward in motion versus the backwards in motion. So yeah, you could make a pretty good video on that. There's a lot to talk about, actually.
Yep. But yeah, just to demonstrate, what's fantastic about Ryan's unarmed upright strafing animations, that there's blend spaces for these distance matched animations for pivots, starts, and stops, where any angle between the animations does really line up so that you can distance match using his plugin inside of a blend space and get a fantastic amount of coverage. And having these states in blend spaces with all of this coverage generated from the blend space works out really, really well for motion matching too in Unreal Engine.
It does, actually. And that's actually one of the reasons I aimed to produce so much coverage, is use the minimum number of sequences required, animation sequences required, to maximize coverage. And there are still some things that I would like to add for different types of motion, but for every state that I have so far, it's the maximum coverage you could ask for. Yep. But there's still things like, walking in a circle or running in a circle or things like that, diamond, square type things that specifically motion matching can take advantage of, that conventional systems can't do as easily, that I would like to eventually add.
Yep. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I've done some initial tests with motion matching in 5.3 with some pretty good results with your animations. I haven't shared that with you yet because I just spent a few hours on it. I think that was last week at some point, but I didn't get around back to it to try to get further, and there's still some pretty big issues and some big missing chunks of what I was wanting to do with that test. Okay, so Seth, we're covering the animation matching suite plugin that Ryan, who is in the stream with me, oh, you just responded to him in text.
I did, because I didn't want to interrupt you again. I've been interrupting you, but yeah, you're answering it.
The link to the marketplace page for it, I believe, is in the description of the live stream. At least it should be, so you can go read about it and watch his dedicated video on it as well. It is a super useful plugin. We cover it in more depth and talk about it specifics more in the previous live stream to this one, which I definitely recommend you watch through. Just click through, find the spots that are interesting to you to find out more, as we had quite a few questions for Ryan to answer during that stream.
Yeah, we did actually.
And we're kind of picking up more of where we left off in the previous stream in this one, as opposed to starting over and addressing things and explaining like the details of how these matching nodes work. But one of the big things that these nodes do is it can do distance matching for blend spaces and handle pose matching into blend spaces as well. And in some cases, both combine pose and distance matching.
Yeah, so there's various matching types that you can choose from the enumerator.
Yep, and we go into more detail in that previous stream.
Yeah.
Okay, so pivot state.
Back to your favorite.
Okay. Yeah, it's really not my favorite. It's my least favorite. Okay, maybe spin is my least favorite.
Now that what? Yeah, I'm learning that one.
Now that I've gotten into working on that for my Locomotion tutorial series, I've been working with the root yaw offset and turn in place, and starting out of turning and then going from start to cycle, and trying to blend out that root yaw offset with the spin state, as well as just being able to spin between right and left as well. So I've been trying to extend its functionality, and that's been the opposite of fun. But the end result should be pretty great with being able to spin out of a backwards animation into a forwards animation out of the start state, which really helps the transition from start to cycle when you have the camera turned around and you're looking at the character as you start, before the character has managed to turn around to realign itself with turn in place. But anyway, I couldn't get the math figured out. I think my brain is just not doing math very well today for the pivots. And so I kind of hacked some really bad logic together to try to get this working, which includes having checking the absolute value of the locomotion angle. And because if it has to be one number under 90 or one above, at least for pivots to work, going from right to left on the keyboard, and still they don't work all the time. So this approach is just completely wrong. I haven't had time to do enough testing to get something that's closer to being right. So Ryan, I'd appreciate to just know what your approach is to figuring out to the right value to plug into the blend space player for pivots. Since the crux of the issue for everyone watching is, again, partially has to do with the limits of blend spaces and how they're mapped. So the blend spaces here are just mapped to a starting locomotion angle, but that locomotion angle changes about halfway through the motion. I could get this working perfectly by just setting a value for the blend space when going into the state, when the node becomes relevant, and then not updating that value. But that creates issues when changing direction mid-pivot, and, well, the pivot wouldn't change, and you could just exit right out of the state in that case, but I'd like to have some wiggle room to actually take advantage of having a blend space and not just forcing out of the pivot state in that situation.
So just as a quick thing, Lyra works because, for those who don't know, Lyra works decently well in this regard with pivots because their braking friction is so freaking high, as is their acceleration. So they can get away with much simpler logic and still have the pivots look good. They have animations and everything that work with the character movement component settings that they have. So they set everything up very well. I prefer, and Ethan and I both prefer, a more, I guess, I don't know how to say it, like an inertial look. So the animations, the character looks like it has some weight to it. But getting pivots to work with that, since that requires that there is a lower braking friction and a lower acceleration, it produces a larger window for things to go wrong.
Yep, it does.
So one of the things that I've done, which I still haven't figured out exactly how to do it. Okay. Well, I've actually, in 5.2, which you are using, but I moved on to 5.3 in my project. Because began using motion matching for the pivot
Oh
state.
yeah, I remember.
Because my animations allow for, just by default, because you could just plug the blend space directly in into the motion. I forgot the name. They've changed the names of things now,
Yep.
but the files that you put your animation assets into, that Epic has allowed you to, that does all the motion matching stuff, you can just chuck them in there, and it does a decent job of, actually, I think a pretty good job of pulling the right poses out. But if you're not going to use that, then one thing I've done is, when you're in the pre-pivot portion of your pivot, in that you're approaching the stop, like the marker, if you were to actually show a marker on screen, I use the acceleration, or I guess the inverse acceleration, or whatever. I use the player input, I should say. So the CMC acceleration, which is essentially just player input, to drive everything. And then once you're in the post pivot, so let's say you're moving forward, you're in your loop state, you're jogging forward, and then you immediately press backwards. Well, there's going to be some time where your character is still going to be moving forward, and your pivot state will be playing, and then you'll come to a stop and begin moving backwards. And once you begin moving backwards, I use velocity to drive the blend space. But there is a problem in that there is a slight window where the velocity vector, if you actually put a debug arrow at the bottom of the capsule on screen, it flips around from being forward, because you're originally moving forward in my current example. It flips around to be going backwards. And that flipping part, that window where the velocity flips to match the acceleration direction, causes a lot of problems. If you have high braking friction and high acceleration, that flip is so fast it doesn't do anything. Detrimental, at least. But if you have lower braking friction and lower acceleration, then that flipping, it actually flips. I don't know what happened there, but it actually flips the hips and causes plenty of problems. So for those of you watching, having issues with the pivot state is, well, at least from my experience, it is very normal. It is a very difficult state to do well, especially when you want the more inertial look, a more weighty appearance. So if anyone has ideas on this, please volunteer them. I would love to hear them.
Yeah, I spent weeks on figuring out the pivot state for the upcoming video for my Locomotion series this Saturday, and I'm not completely happy with the end result. It's good enough, and it's solid enough. There's a few nitpicks I might have about it, but I think I get the main points across, and if I encounter ways to make it better, I'll just have to make an update video. But I don't want to hold off any longer on the pivots, because it works as well enough as you can expect, I think, with trying to get like a more inertial lengthened pivots working within a animation system built with just by playing single animation sequences, switching between them based on a direction enumeration, and then applying orientation warping to each of those sequences. So the non-blend space approach, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, even that, I mean, both approaches have the same
issue.
Do. Unless you do the Lyra thing where high acceleration and high braking friction. So what are you going to work on here?
I think now, like, what's left really for this kind of basic demonstration Locomotion system would just be getting the pivots working properly, as far as as close to properly as we can manage. That's a big statement, getting pivots working within the time frame of a live stream. No pressure. Worst case scenario, we chuck a motion matching node into here and set things up that way.
Hey, why don't you just do that? I'm sure I would think people may be interested in something like that, but I don't know that you have practiced with that before.
I've not with just the pivot state, but like I said a week ago, I started putting together a Locomotion system, so I'm up to date on how things are working in 5.3, and last time I tried to enable those plugins for 5.2, fun thing that took half my day yesterday, I corrupted the project files that was like the base version of the Locomotion system I've been building for the YouTube series. So I had to go back and recreate all my turn-in-place functionality that day from scratch. as well as my pivot functionality before I recorded the video for pivots, because I didn't have my ground truth pivot system to reference off on my second screen as I was recording, which having that figured out beforehand makes recording much faster and simpler and less likely to just go completely wrong. And so I had to figure that out again from scratch. And that took hours to get back working. So I am going to create a backup of this project. And
the moral of the story is GitHub.
Open it up with 5.3, and yes, GitHub is the moral of the story. The saddest thing is that that was a GitHub repository I was working out of. I just hadn't even committed anything to it yet, because the initial commit was going to be what goes live as, I guess, this isn't technically the first time I'm saying this. I mentioned it in my Discord server, but I'm planning on having project files available to download through a Patreon in the near future. In the case of my Locomotion series project files, it'll be that project, but with the lyra animations and some settings in the animation system to be able to work with lyra animations, which don't have the full coverage of the UUS animation set. So essentially, some of the functionality that takes advantage of that coverage will be toggleable in the finalized system that can be downloaded through Patreon. But
so I'm gonna send you. Well, I don't know if you need it, but would you like any assistance with setting up the motion matching?
I'll happily take assistance because I'm doing this live, and I'd rather things go as smoothly as possible. So, everyone, I'm off on my second screen here, just creating a duplicate of this project file, and I'm going to open it up in 5.3.
Oh, actually, yeah, my current project is in 5.3, so I'm not really sure what difference is. So let's do. So
I'm more familiar with 5.3 than I am with 5.2 motion matching at this point, because it's been a really long time since I've looked at it in 5.2. It's just been a few days since I've looked at it in 5.3, so I'll be able to use your reference and probably do the mental conversions to 5.3. And that has a less likely chance of crashing and corrupting the project live on stream too. So
okay, so let's see, I'm just going to send you some screenshots of things. Okay. But so the first step, of course, is in your character component, which maybe you can show this on your screen, is to add, as you know, the character or the motion trajectory. I forgot what it's called.
Yep. They keep changing the name. It's something trajectory or trajectory something at this point.
Let's see. In 5.3, it's called the character trajectory. So you want to in your character, in your what am I trying to say? Yeah, your character class. You want to add that as a component.
And I'll be going through these steps in a few minutes, everyone, once I'm finished making a backup of the project.
And then once you've added once you've added the character or the trajectory component to your character class, then you can pretty much just go into your, if I remember correctly, but I don't really have the setup here, but if you can go to your animation blueprint, and then you'll want to, because you want to call it from a thread safe approach. So you're going to make, here, I'm going to send it to you, Ethan.
Okay.
It's kind of broken because I'm sending you the broken pictures. I updated to 5.3, but I didn't reset up motion matching.
Gotcha.
So you'll want to go, so you put the trajectory component in your character class, and you go to your animation blueprint, you create a get movement trajectory component, similar to how you set up your get character movement component function. So it'll be a pure function, and Ethan will go through this in a moment.
Yep.
That way you can access that in a thread safe manner later and use that, and then it's hard to explain while we're waiting for this to update, but I'm going to get some shots for you, screenshots, just so it's clear what I mean.
Okay.
And they seem to have completely changed the names of a lot of functions, because there's a way to update your movement trajectory such that you can use the root yaw offset, which I was using, So here, I'll show you this. So I'm currently sending Ethan screenshots, and there's a lot of red in the screenshots I'm sending him because things broke when I updated. So I don't know the names of the new things, but we'll discover them. Well, I guess he's using 5.2, so he can probably use exactly what I'm sending. Is it done updating? I'm not looking at the screen.
Yeah, I created a copy. I am switching it to 5.3 though. I think I'll be a bit faster with 5.3, and
okay,
there's less chance of something going wrong, but I'll still be able to use your 5.2 references.
Okay. So get movement component, and then we're gonna want or trajectory component, I mean, and then update trajectory. Yeah, it's very. There's only really two main functions that you need to make in your animation blueprint, and then the rest, you literally just like motion matching is really awesome in this way. As long as you have coverage, which that becomes the biggest problem now, is you have this really awesome technology, but getting animation coverage is an absolute pain in the butt. Which is why I aim to, as much as I could, provide that. Okay. So I know this is kind of like a lull in the stream.
I'll be ready in just a few moments, everyone. I'm getting the 5.3 version of Ryan's plugin as well. That way it doesn't try to recompile it or something on its own from the 5.2 version when I open this up.
Oh yeah, it won't build at all actually.
Okay.
If you try to use the 5.2 version of 5.3, I don't think it will. It gave me a ton of errors.
Okay.
I think you'll have the same problems.
Yeah, likely. That's likely.
You have access to my GitHub repo for the plugin, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Any moment now. It's, well, cleaning up the install for the plugin, so...
Okay, good.
It's... should be here momentarily. Here, I'll subject all of you guys to watching this bar be all the way full and waiting. Oh, darn it. As soon as I move this over onto my screen, it finishes. Usually it takes longer, and we're stuck waiting for those sorts of things. Of course. All right. Okay, so...
Okay, so... Oh, that's weird. The animation set? Is that what it said?
It's the name of the project. I just built this out of your demo project for your animation set. So that's all. That's just the default.
Wow. Okay.
It was easier than migrating. Was just to open it up and throw an animation blueprint asset in and grab the third-person content. And I mean,
you probably deleted all the UE4 stuff then, huh?
I'm not sure if I ever got around to that. I mean, maybe I did. I don't remember. No.
Oh, okay. Well, just makes your project large.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
For what you're doing.
And for those of you who are verified with both the AMS plugin and the UUS animation set in Ryan's Discord, I'm happy to send you the project files. I'll organize and lighten things up, get the UE4 stuff out of here, and send the project from the stream to you guys so that you guys can take a look at it yourselves. Just for those of you who do have both the plugin and the animations.
And there's the Found Studio said that he was just in a motion matching Discord and someone selling an animation set. Yeah, there's some not horrible sets out there. They just don't, and some of them do provide. Like there's one by Vanilla Loop, and I guess I'm kind of doing free marketing for him right now. But his set is actually, it's good in the sense that it does provide a lot of coverage for the price. Like it's $40, I think, and it does provide walking and running and all these things. And I think forward facing, which is non-strafing. I think it includes that and strafing. You should definitely verify before if you intend to purchase something. But one thing that sets my animations apart is that they were made specifically so every state that I do provide, though I may not provide as many, every state I do provide can blend into blend space. So that's what really sets my animation set apart. I'm not saying other sets are bad. I just made mine for a specific purpose, which was to blend in blend spaces to provide maximum coverage with the minimal assets.
But, so wall run is probably going to. I mean,
I don't see. Yeah, that's
the approach I would take. Would probably be to use montages. To try to use montages and motion warping.
It depends if it's an extended, like, wall run, though.
Yeah, it does.
Because it might turn out to be a loop, and then perhaps you can use motion matching, but you'd have to have a special state for motion matching. You might have to query your surroundings.
Yep, the moment you get away from ground locomotion, you're in more of like undefined territory for good, solid approaches to do things, because a lot of your animation implementation for something like wall running is going to depend on how you handle the actual movements of the character, which in like the most proper case scenario would be some custom C++ code in the character movement component to make things function properly, and when it comes to being able to replicate movement properly and perform client-side prediction for the movement.
And that's a pain. There is a good there's a plugin available that I kind of want to buy, but it is pricey. It's called the general movement component.
Yep.
And I'm
still quite curious about that one.
Yeah, it's like $350 right now, which certainly is not cheap. But I'm curious about it because it's made to make those of us who, I mean, I can code in C++, but I don't know anything about replication. So I would take advantage of what it offers, which is it's a completely separate movement component. It's not built off Epic's movement component. It's its own separate thing. So again, it's called the general movement component. You can buy it in the marketplace, but it allows you to do all the replication that you want. At least that's how it's advertised, with Blueprint, which is awesome. I would, if it was cheaper, I'd buy it. Or if I was making more money, I'd buy it, because I would like to try out my own distance. Like I want to make distance matching predictions using that plugin. I'd have to change everything I did, would have to be custom at that point. Oh wow. Well, at least so the pivots still don't work.
But... Yeah, the pivots work worse than before. Not worse than before, but not because of the project change, just because there's weird stuff plugged in and was in the middle of that. But I was just making sure stuff would start up properly in the level. I'm gonna go to project settings, maps and modes, and make this the default level, because I'm gonna have to restart this when I enable the plugins. I'm so good at naming levels. This one is called Untitled. So for motion matching, we need to enable two plugins, pose search and motion trajectory. I believe it's just two. I'm going to take a quick look at the animation section and make sure I'm not missing something.
While you're doing that, I will say that this general movement component, though it's $350, it has great reviews. So people seem to really appreciate it. That's hard to do, to get I mean, I get very few people who review my products, and I would like to think that they're decent at least. But to have something that costs much more and has 34 reviews, it's like, man, I'm doing marketing for these people right now. They get free marketing right now. What is it? They probably have never even heard of me. I probably don't get free marketing from them. But I would really like to try this dang plugin.
Yep.
I just...
And really, $350 for what it does, if it does everything as well as it says it does, and according to the reviews, it seems like that is the case, is more than worth it compared to if you do out the math for the amount of hours it would take even a professional programmer to program all that same functionality. I'm sure you'd pay them more than $350. So
yeah, that'd be
it's a pretty great deal. Yeah.
But the downside is that it's not connected to Epic's. So I don't know how Epic's motion matching. They keep changing it. So I may have understood it before, but I don't know what they did in this new update. but I don't know that it's attached. I don't know how closely it's linked with their default character movement component. And if you use the general movement component, you'll lose all that connection if you want to use motion matching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying everyone should get this general movement component. It could be a good resource for some.
So I'm adding a character trajectory component to the third person character. Don't think I need to change any of the defaults for now. And inside of the animation blueprint, I'll just copy this get movement component function and change its name to get trajectory component. And instead of getting the movement component through property access, I'm going to get the owning actor, I think, and yep, cast to the class that I added the trajectory to. In this case, it's the third person character from the third person template. And then with the character, I'm going to get the character trajectory.
I'm going to answer Seth while you do that.
Okay.
I think he actually found his answer. But yes, to confirm, Seth, your question was where'd it go? Oh, will there be some kind of demo project using both the US animations and the AMS plugin? Not that, but because I don't want to. I haven't made a good project that merges those two. I've been working on other things at the moment. But I did create a demo project, which again, you already found the answer. But for others, I did create a demo project that uses the free Lyra animations with my plugin. And it's not meant to be a complete Locomotion system. It's mostly just meant to show, hey, this is one way to use the nodes that I created in my animation matching suite with a system. But it's by no means meant to be the system that you use for your game. It's not complete. There are glitches in it because Locomotion systems are hard to make, take a long time. I couldn't invest that time into making a perfect system, but it's good enough to show how to use the nodes, at least in one way. Okay, what is the next thing? I'm still following system, so maybe. Yeah, I mean, let's see, but they haven't great because. Yeah, it's funny. So the Found Studio, Ethan and I, well, certainly me, I've been trying to learn Locomotion for the past 3 years. It's been my main focus. Ethan has been better at becoming more of a generalist and learning the engine and like more facets of it, exploring things. I've been not doing that. I've just been focusing on Locomotion, and that's probably why I've been able to make plugins for Locomotion specific tasks now.
Yeah, getting Locomotion systems to not look janky is the most difficult part of making a Locomotion system.
Yes, my goodness.
If you definitely want to Yep, so if you definitely want to send some screenshots or videos to me in Discord, Seth, I can take a look. But yeah, getting things to sync up and transitions to look good, that's a pain, and this plugin makes it a lot easier, a whole lot easier to manage that sort of stuff.
At least the transitions does, because you don't have to rely on sync markers. Like for those who don't know, my plugin does pose matching, which means that you can transition from one state to the next, and you don't have to rely on sync markers for that transition. You may still want sync markers within the blend space to make things sync in the blend space itself, but as for relying on those for state transitions, not necessary if you use my plugin. And you can also distance match blend spaces, which I think just overall looks much better than just using sequence assets.
Unfortunately, it looks like I couldn't find it last time I did this, but there seems to be no make trajectory relative to component function anymore. So,
wait, really? From 5.2? That was such a useful...
Yeah, I know. I don't know why they got rid of that. Maybe it's not needed, but I went ahead and did it manually back in my test. I haven't tested it without doing it.
Oh, so you did do something like this, but
yep.
You didn't. Why would they remove that function?
I don't know.
I have to look under the hood now at some point and figure out what they changed that would lead them to remove a very useful, simple function.
Yeah, I know.
That.
Okay, so position. I need to subtract the location. And then make pose search position.
I don't really know what you're doing, actually. What are you subtracting position for? Or location?
This is getting the trajectory in world space, and I'm converting it to be relative to the actor location of the character. So I'm subtracting the location of the character from the world space position of the trajectory.
Okay. Okay, what else is being in the chat here? Being put here. Like blend between cycle and direction. It seems like it could be. Tomorrow, let's see. Yeah, distance matching is good enough for most games. Yeah. I mean, yes, because I would say people probably shouldn't be like me in many ways, in that I spend too much time learning locomotion, because a game is not just locomotion. And most people who play the games probably don't care about locomotion that much. They just want a fun game. So distance matching is certainly enough. Even without distance matching, just chucking some blend spaces in might be good enough, especially from an independent developer. People don't have the same high expectations for quality. They have the high expectation. Well, they have expectations, I should say, for fun. But let me see. But I think we are all here for the higher. Yeah, we are all here to learn more things particularly regarding locomotion right now.
And motion matching, as it continues to get developed, I think will make a lot of things easier when it comes to getting a more fidelity out of the look of movement without having to put in so much work. It makes some of the most difficult aspects of getting animation systems to look nice easier, at least.
Yeah.
There's definitely a reason it's become it's becoming the standard approach for AAA studios.
Well, yeah, they have access to many more resources.
They do, specifically so they can make the coverage required.
Right.
Yep.
They can maximize the benefits of motion matching, because motion matching isn't a magic anything. It is just a tool that can be used, but it's not necessary. Dang, you have so many tabs open. It's like my Google. So many tabs.
Yeah, I know. I'd never bother with. It's because you click into a state, and it opens a new tab, and I just don't. I use the side here to navigate usually instead of the tabs, and so occasionally I'll just right click and close all the other tabs. Yeah, I found that out the moment that I had broken things with the amount of tabs I had open and needed to get them all closed and quickly. And luckily there is that option. So
I've learned two things: that you can go back and forward in the not blend space, in the animation graph, and you can close all tabs. Wow, look at these things I'm learning. Things I should have learned on day one. So, so you have trajectory. Why is it an array? Trajectory points?
The component. Yep, it's part of this trajectory struct. As soon as you break it, it just gives you a single array of the pose search query trajectory sample struct.
It's the history and the future of, I would think. All right.
You get a facing as I'm not sure. I think that might be a quaternion. Yep.
If it's a rotation, it's gonna be a quaternion.
Yeah. Position and then accumulated seconds. So I can make this back into a trajectory.
Dang. And Holden's hard at work on this stuff.
Moment space trajectory. There we go.
Oh, why lock the sample project behind verified users? Because the sample project only works with the plugin, and just as the plugin should only, I mean, people have to buy the plugin. So I only want people to get access to the sample project if they've bought the plugin. So that would be why.
The sample project has to contain the plugin to work, and so if Ryan gives out the sample project, then people have access to the plugin code and can take it and put it in all their other projects too, without paying.
So, though I am a fan of certain free things, I would like to eventually make a living off doing this, so I appreciate any support. I want to make more tools, but teaching at the college is sucking up time, and eventually I'd like to switch over from that. And the best way for me to be able to switch over is to be able to make enough money off selling things that, I mean, as Ethan knows, I'm making things for the project he and I are working on, and whatever is lacking, I try to fill the gap, and then I think, well, other people can use this too. And ideally, be able to make enough money off those things so we can reinvest it in our game and keep making things and eventually make a game.
Yep. So I've created a motion.
Oh, I see what he's saying. You're saying a package. Oh, sorry, Ethan. Go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead. Okay. Because we're good. You go ahead and continue to.
So Seth is asking if I had provided a package build. Oh, you're right. I could do that, but the thing is, the project itself, it's not really like I've essentially just rebuilt Lyra. The sample project just has Lyra rebuilt in it, but instead of using the approach Epic took, I just used my own plugin. So it's not like the project itself is anything special. It's really just a showcase. There's not really a point in presenting people with a package build because that's not what I'm selling. I'm selling the tool, and the project itself just has a way to use the tool. So if you can't see what's inside the project doesn't really serve its purpose. So that's why I don't bother with presenting a package build of the project to people. Let's see. So let me go back to the Found Studios comment. The Elden Ring movement. Oh my gosh, no. Elden Ring movement is horrible. They have no starts or stops. It's literally just loops. I don't even know if there's blend spaces in there. Whatever engine they use, I don't know. But it's clearly they did not invest in the locomotion. If it doesn't seem like it, at least. But you know what? Apparently people really like the gameplay, and so that just goes to show that Locomotion does not make the game. It can possibly break the game, the feel of it, but it depends on what kind of game you're aiming to make. So I can't play Elden Ring because I can't stand the Locomotion. But obviously most people don't care. That's why its ratings are so dang good. Let's see what the other question is. So, like, not one that can open up and enter, just a demo game. Yeah, so I think I answered this one. Maybe you asked this, and I was already answering the question, Seth. But yeah, so there's not a point in providing a packaged version of the sample project for the AMS plugin, just because the purpose of the project is to demonstrate how to use the plugin. It's not just to have a project. Like, that's not what I'm selling. I'm just selling the tool. So anyway, Ethan, you should probably stop talking so you can explain to people what you're doing.
Yeah. I have 2 copies of the UE5 mannequin skeleton, so I'm taking a bit longer to. I started using the wrong one to begin with.
Okay.
Because I have the one from your demo project and the one that comes with the third-person content pack. That's part of the engine.
I probably named the same too. Yep.
Yours is named. Your skeleton is named differently, so it's fine.
Okay.
But so I'm creating a motion database and then a motion database config file. So the motion database takes a config and animations in the form of sequences, blend spaces. You might be able to do composites. I haven't tried that, but there's not really any reason to. those are just made up of sequences, so you can just put those sequences in, I think. So let's see. I'm going to, in this case, grab the pivot, jog, blend spaces, or walking might be part of that coverage in the blend spaces too. No, it is separate. I'll put these 4 in here, and now we can see the motion matched pose coverage, and I'm going to turn up the number of horizontal samples to something a bit higher, and the number of vertical samples can be 1 for these blend spaces. And in the config file, I'll cover this stuff in more detail once I learn enough myself about it to make some videos on my channel. Let's see, I'm just using the default settings in 5.3, so it's tracking both foot bones, nothing else as far as bones go, and then the trajectory samples that are default as well. So 1 at the past, 1 in the present, 2 in the future at the times that are there by default. So everything defaults in the config. And with that done, I should be able to go back into the animation blueprint and select that database. And now let's see if I forgot something. I have a feeling I did.
Did you forget to switch it in the animation? I wasn't watching. Oh no, it is there.
It is there. So
something that I did is I broke it up still into 2 states, and that I had the like a database for triggering while forward into motion and triggering while backward into motion.
Okay.
But you can probably avoid doing that if you know how to set the weights up properly, which I don't yet.
Right, I haven't done that either. Okay.
But so, even in The Last of Us 2, Naughty Dog, right? That's the company that made it? Yeah, they did state-based motion matching, so...
Okay.
I think, well, they know what they're doing. Let me just do what they do.
Oops, wrong node.
I'm going to address the other question, or it's not a question, comment. Shizuma says, locomotion is subjective. Many people enjoy instant locomotion. I don't know if they enjoy it. I just don't think it bothers them. So I don't think that anyone would... If they got more realistic locomotion in World of Warcraft, I don't think they'd be like, oh no, I enjoyed the instant locomotion more. I just think that they probably don't care about it enough for it to detract from their experience. So it comes up to your resources. Do you have the resources to invest in a good locomotion system, or do you not? And if you don't, then just make the gameplay. Which I'm probably not one to speak to that, because I have done nothing but locomotion.
Yeah, I can attest to that. For that's been the case for I'm not sure how many years now.
It's been like 3.5, and all I've done is locomotion.
Yep.
It all started with ALS V4 when it became free.
Yep, it did. It did.
But we've been keeping records of team meetings for 3.5 years. I can go back and see the videos that I posted when I was messing around with ALS.
Yep. So you said you separated out hips forward and hips backward into motion for the entry portion of the pivot?
Yeah, when I was using 5.2. Again, I don't know. But I wonder what your what's it called? Your config? Oh, that's pretty cool though. See how all you have to do, there's something to emphasize, is that these are just 2 blend spaces, but look at the coverage. And you can increase the coverage too.
Yep. Right now it's on like 16. I could do
I think I did 61.
Okay.
Because I'm crazy, but
why not?
They change. You have to have an odd number so that the forward
middle
actually is like the middle. Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, that's overkill. Let's do it.
It's definitely too much. It's probably not necessary, but heck. We're not going for performance at the moment.
Yep, I have 64 gigabytes of RAM and a 3090. I should be all right. You don't want to do this in something you're shipping. 61 is too much. You could do much less and just post-process it through orientation warping and be perfect.
So I'm going to address Seth's
okay.
rightful concern here. So yeah, if you're unsure how the plugin will benefit you, then I would definitely recommend not getting it, because it is a tool, and if you don't immediately see a use for the animation matching suite plugin, then yeah, don't get it right now. Wait until you see a use for it. A sample project just built to play around in, like a pre-built project, will not be enough to convince you to buy it, because it's not going to show you how to use it. So if you don't see a need for it, if you don't see a use for it, just use what you have access to right now and make the best that you can. And when you run into problems, if you do, then you might look into other solutions, and maybe at that point you'll see that my plugin will benefit you. But I wouldn't want anyone to buy it. What was that?
I don't know.
I wouldn't want anyone to buy the plugin. What the?
It's spawning where the camera is at. Okay, that worked better, so I need to connect this back up into cycle.
I missed what you were doing because I was responding to...
I'll show everyone in a moment.
Yeah, Shizuma, I feel like I'm a lot like you. You're so interested in Locomotion, and you're critical of it. Yeah, that's why I start a project, I get really far, but it's never good enough, so I start over thinking, oh, I can do better. Oh, that, okay, so it gets stuck leaving. I had trouble, Ethan, in the... Oh, wait, but you're doing the same thing I did, I think, with an animation notify. But that pivot look... Okay, that did not look good. What happened there?
I tried turning on an automatic rule-based transition.
Yeah, I don't know how
with motion matching
allows access to the certain properties of the sequence, or the blend spaces in this case. So I don't know how it reads how much time is left remaining.
Yep. So the
notifies work usually
going
for me.
To try, the notify, unless it's not in all of these pivots, but I'm pretty sure I did that. I created an animation notify state and added it to them before I started the stream, because that's just tedious.
Yeah, I should make like an anim modifier for that, huh?
Yeah, I started working on one a little while back, but it didn't iron out the logic, and I ran out of time, so I just ended up doing it manually. But I almost had the logic worked out for... Oh, no, it wasn't for that. It was for hip facing. Calculating a hip facing curve automatically, which is useful. But,
yeah, I wanted to do that too, but I gave up and
yeah, I have the animation notify state in all of these for 0.25 seconds.
That's... What's your blend out? Is it inertial blending into the next state?
It's a standard blend right now. I can try.
I don't think that will change the exit, but who knows? Yeah, but dang, that pivot using motion matching is awesome.
It looked really good, yeah.
It looks way better in 5.3 than it did in 5.2.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using this animation notify, I'm going to get the ground speed, which is the length of the 2D velocity vector, and I'm going to check if it is nearly equal to... This isn't going to be a perfect approach, but it should work all right. I'm going to check if it is nearly equal to, and I'll go back into thread safe update animation, and I'll eventually collapse this into functions, but I'm going to get property access. I'll get the movement components max walk speed, and I'll create that variable, because calling this function in a transition role is going to create some issues. So I'm doing it here in this graph instead.
Oh, does it really?
I always get an error when I stop playing, but it doesn't seem to have any sort of effect on the actual gameplay or the result while playing.
Not noticed that at all. And Lyra does it.
Maybe I'm just unlucky with how I ran into that with this specific. I don't know. Weird. So I'll name this to be max walk speed. And now
I'm gonna, I'll wait for a good time. There's a question.
Okay.
I'll answer when you're done explaining. But now I don't hear your explanation.
Yep.
Should I answer the question?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Or I'll look at it too. What is the animation matching suite plugin used for? Yeah, you can go ahead and answer I know, but you created it. You're the developer, so you go, and I'll explain this when I'm done putting the logic together.
Okay, so yeah, animation matching suite provides two main matching features, it matches based on two features: one, distance, and two, pose. So hopefully you've heard of distance matching and pose matching. Distance matching allows you to play an animation based on a distance from a marker instead of using time directly. It takes a distance and converts it to time so that it plays your animation asset based on distance. And then something's funky in your...
Yeah.
It's like freaking out. Yep, that's motion matching for you. It's still experimental. But the animation matching suite does distance matching and pose matching. And pose matching allows you to transition between states and not really have to worry about sync markers at all. So it allows you to ensure that you're going to get the best transition between states without using sync groups and things like that. And uniquely, my plugin specifically allows distance matching and pose matching for blend spaces, which is not... I haven't seen it anywhere else where you can distance match a blend space. I think I'm the only one who's done it so far. Not that others can't do it, they just haven't. So that's what we were showing earlier for the start state and the stop state. Right now, Ethan's experimenting with using Epic's built-in experimental motion matching plugin. So things are going wrong, and I can't tell if it's from that or if it's from Logic.
It was from Logic. I didn't have anything plugged into the this node here, so I was only using the hips forward into motion.
Okay.
So now I'm using a variable that I set when the state becomes relevant.
It's exiting too early.
Yep, that's because I tried...
your transition rule.
Checking if the ground speed is equal to the max walk speed. So I can try lowering the acceleration.
Or just put it at a ratio to the... Oh, no, never mind. Don't do what I was going to say. Don't do that.
Yeah, I won't. So that's going to be a much slower speed up.
Wow. Pivot states are still a pain.
So 400... I'll go back to that value.
Oh, that's some low acceleration.
So it's just not working now.
Well,
I have a feeling that something is wrong with when I'm with this hip facing variable when it's getting set. Because that seems to be an issue right now.
Are you printing it to screen?
Yep.
Okay.
So right now it gets set based on the locomotion angle if an animation is being played that does not have a curve value. If an animation has a curve value that isn't 0, then hip facing gets set by an animation. So if an animation doesn't have a hip facing curve, it gets set by logic based on the locomotion angle. If the animation does have a curve with a value that is not 0, it gets set based on whether or not that curve is above or below 0. So in the case of pivots, I was updating the hip facing based on a curve when entering and exiting, so that when exiting out or going in and out of the pivot state, the cycle state would update accordingly to the change in the pivot state.
But it's based on velocity, huh?
Yeah.
It's not based on acceleration? So
that's a good point.
Yeah, yep. So your selection of the motion matching is probably having issues because of that.
Oh, you're right. That's going to be it. So I'll go into my orientation data function. Thanks for thinking of that quicker than I did.
Yeah, having another set of eyes on Locomotion
Yep.
development is, it's almost essential unless you would like to go insane.
Yeah.
Which explains my mental challenges when I have the engine open. It's like, wow, I wanted to throw this computer out the window.
Copying the wrong code. Or no, I'm not. I just didn't copy enough of it. Okay, so I'll create a new hip facing variable. I'll name it hip facing acceleration. I should name it acceleration hip facing, but too late, and it doesn't really matter.
Did you just... I don't know how you drag stuff. Man, I'm learning little things from you right now.
Yeah, you can just drag one variable onto another. If it's the same type, it'll replace it in the graph.
Wow, and I thought I knew all this stuff, learning all these little tiny things. I mean, I thought I knew all the basic stuff, but I've pretty much just learned a bunch of basic stuff that I should have already known. It's going to make my life much smoother now.
Good. Okay, so now we have hip facing that has nothing to do with animations and is just calculated based on the locomotion angle that's calculated from the acceleration as opposed to velocity. I'll clean the graph once I know that it works. So for the setup pivot state, I'll swap it out to use, and this pivot blend space stuff isn't needed anymore. That's just left over from before. But I need to get that acceleration based hip facing variable and put that in here as the base. There we go.
Yes, so now the issue is just leaving the state. Let's see if it works.
I disabled that transition to test it because it was leaving too early. But I'll enable it now. That things. I'm going to try the animation notify state one more time.
Yeah, because that should... I mean, that was working for me in 5... Okay. What? Is it is it the same name? Your animation notify? What does it say? It says, was anim notify active in state? Okay. Exit. That's freaking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Man, sometimes I wonder if it's my problem or Epic's. Okay.
That looked fine.
Hey, that looks... Okay, that doesn't look good. So why is it picking the wrong one? Can you do forward to backward and see what that looks like? It couldn't pick the right one there.
Oh. That's strange.
Why are there moments when the animation, like the mesh, looks like it's getting distorted, like the legs and the arms? I don't understand.
I'm not sure. That's weird. Might be the foot placement node.
Yeah,
doing some weird things.
Strange.
I'll bypass that for the time being. Let's see. I've lost my train of thought completely. Oh yeah. So back in the event graph, I'm going to read the value of the initial pivot hip facing. So this is the value that gets used.
The mesh still looks kind of funky. Huh. That was kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know why it's not... Well...
It's always using the forward facing. That's never using hips backward into motion. That is wrong.
Well, it did when you were going backward.
Did I? Thought I was looking at it closely.
So you're going backward. Now you're going forward.
No, it's printing an F the whole time.
Oh, you're looking at... Okay, sorry. What are you printing right now? Are you printing...
I'm printing the
acceleration
initial hip facing. I'm printing what gets used to determine the animation. I'll look at the acceleration to make sure that's getting set properly. Nope, it's not. That's the issue.
So if people couldn't see it, he's printing to the screen. It's a little small, but good way to debug stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah, update orientation data.
Well, that explains it.
I
replaced the variables, and when I replaced the variables, it reset the value to the default, and I didn't realize. I thought it would keep the value. That's better.
Hey, that's not bad at all. Let's see if it works for... Okay. That did not...
It's choosing, yeah, it's choosing the wrong.
Well, but you're not using the curve value to help with setting this, are you? For the acceleration?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I understand what you're
for the hip facing
asking.
direction or hip orientation or whatever,
right.
I forgot your name of it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you using the curve for the
I'm not. I
acceleration
should
one
be
as
though.
well?
Yeah, I
Because
should
I
be
think
doing that.
that
You're right.
might help. I don't know actually.
I think you're right. At first, I didn't think so, but I think you're right on that. So.
But the curves only come up in the pivot state, so it wouldn't probably do anything unless you're already in the pivot state, right?
Right.
Well, then I'm not convinced this will change anything.
We'll see though.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, everyone, this is the fun stuff to go through, and it yeah, blueprints end up looking like spaghetti, which is why I prefer C++, but then it's slower for prototyping, for me at least.
Oh, this is how I should be doing it. So this first, and then I set both hip facing and hip facing acceleration. That's so much cleaner. And now sequence.
Okay, well, I'm not really sure what you're doing, but huh. I think motion matching is still not very performant. It seems to slow down. I wonder what your FPS is.
Only 90.
Is that low?
Because
you're not using motion matching until the pivot state.
Right.
You're just using basic stuff before that.
Well, let's see.
You do have a giant landscape.
Yeah, that's not going to have any effect. So 120 in wireframe. Yeah, no, motion matching isn't affecting the FPS at all.
Oh, hey, well, that's awesome. That's good to know. That means they've made it pretty well so far.
Yep.
What did you press? F what for that wireframe?
F1.
Okay.
F2 is unlit, and then F3 is lit. F4 is some sort of lighting view. Can't recall the exact name. 5 is material complexity. And then, okay, F8 ejects me from the player. Just pressing the buttons. I should have remembered that. Okay, so I'm going to look at, go back in the event graph. Okay, so hip facing acceleration is being printed.
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on with this mesh. It looks like it's being
messed. Could it be compression through what you're seeing in Discord? I'm not noticing it, but
maybe. It's like the elbows and the knees get all funky.
Oh, I am seeing it now.
I don't know why.
The post-process animation blueprint might not be enabled on it. The default post-process blueprint is probably the culprit, if that's probably not running. So I'll take a look at that in a bit, but
I mean, that's not that significant, but I just don't want people to think my animations are screwed up like that. They're not. But maybe I don't have it set up in the... well.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to... I know what's happening is it's deciding to motion match just coming out of it from the other direction. as opposed to actually, I'm going to look at the trajectory component and make sure that it's not, and look at the way that the facing is being handled on it.
You have the movement component open.
Where is the debug? I'll probably just search.
You can debug in the node itself.
Oh, okay.
In the motion. Is it the post search plugin and animation blueprint? Oh, yeah, I think it's in the animation blueprint.
Okay.
The post search and the top level of the anim graph.
I don't have that in because that's not apparently needed.
Wait, is it not needed anymore?
No, it's used if you want to post match into a sequence player.
No, pose history is needed though, or it should be, or it used to be.
It used to be.
What? Huh? That's different, unless I just didn't understand it.
It wasn't in the 5.1 PDF, so as being a requirement either, though. So.
Okay. Huh. Hey, well, the pivots look pretty good, except when they're not playing properly. But when they do play properly, they look nice and smooth. It's not as responsive, but that's because you intentionally lowered the acceleration to test things.
And I want to see if I can maybe try to trust motion matching a bit more. And if I go into the, where did I put it? Into these databases. And if I go into the animation set.
Oh, are you just going to put them all in one?
No, loop. And I'm going to throw in the jog, the blend space for cycling into here, because occasionally it hitches a bit at the end of the pivot as it doesn't have the coverage inside the pivot animation and we're getting up to speed to exit. So that should give it the coverage it needs to start playing the cycle before we've hit the required velocity to exit the state. And that seems to be working.
Yeah, there's transitions. See what it looks like to transition to loop from. Yeah, it's seamless because it's using my plugin and their plugin.
Yep.
Look at that. Okay, I don't know what that was.
That was it trying to play a walk loop instead of a pivot.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Yeah, the weight on the pivots would need to be set much higher than the jogging animations. And it'd actually be probably better to just
probably not even put that full blend space in, just the jog one for what you're doing right now. Oh, and the coverage isn't high. Or you didn't set it to be high on the loop.
Speaking of which, I am going to go ahead and put this down to like 31 instead of 61. 61 really is just overkill.
But, okay, just to emphasize for people who just hopped on, this is only possible in blend spaces like this when they blend as they do. Like, this is the pivot state. Blending so that you can take... It's effectively infinite coverage within its type of state that it's meant to be. So I just appreciate that about my own back. So I hope that you all will too. Didn't I make a jogging blend space of just running? Did I not include it in the newest one? I thought I did.
I'm not in the newest one. You probably did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The newest UUS animation set comes with the updated. I put 2 blend spaces just for jogging in that folder that you're looking at right now.
I'm still on 5.2 for the UUS project version, and I just took the 5.2 project, updated that to 5.3, so it doesn't have the new assets from the 5.3 version.
Wow. That's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I'm convinced that doesn't look good, but At least we know that's probably just the logic.
Yeah.
That's probably not the motion matching itself, nor is it the animations. So that's great news.
I mean, if we cut these up into quadrants, we could definitely fix that issue pretty easily.
Oh yeah, you could do that. Wait, how would that help though?
It's
It would be quadrant-based selection, but you'd still be on the boundary right there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, that's what I do for stops. I wonder what distance or motion match stops would look like for those who don't want to mess with, who really just want my pack and don't want to mess with my plugin.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. We can move on from the pivots, because that's an issue with pivots I haven't solved in my other project either. So stops, yeah. So long story short, everyone, motion matching makes everything so much easier in 5.3. It works great for distance to replace distance match stops. I've already tried that.
Oh, you have?
Yep. But I'll do that here on stream.
I tried it in 5.2, and there was a lot of sliding at the end, so I still relied on my own node for that. But and the reason the stops, again, I'm like trying to. I'm plugging my own set, but you're using it, so
yeah, I'm using it. It's part of the stream. It's a developer Q&A with the developer of both of these things. So continue to plug your stuff. It's fine.
So the reason why motion matching works so well with the set is because the blend space is being effective and having. So even when you go on to use them for stops, the only reason that's going to work is because you have effectively infinite coverage for the stops because of how they blend. Which I assume you'll use a blend space. Oh yeah, all 4 quadrants. So you forgot 2 of them.
Yep. There we go.
Because for the stops, I couldn't get them to blend in just the 2 hemispheres.
Okay.
Or 2 hemi. It wouldn't be spheres. What would it be? Hemicircles. The half circles. I had to, or the half planes, I guess. I had to use quadrants. Dang, what's up with this?
Playing from the camera location, the camera was low enough that it clipped through the floor when I spawned.
Oh, so that stopping, yeah. Okay.
It worked a lot better back when I tried it, so something must be wrong.
Well, what configuration are you using for stops? You may have to change the weighting of the trajectory versus the pose.
Okay. Yeah. I'll create a new config for stops.
Yeah, I often had, though I was messing around and not saying this is the best approach, but I did have separate configurations for every state just to allow more control.
I actually haven't looked at the weights yet.
Your trajectory is 7. What's your pose? Oh, wait, what is that? That's your pose channel.
Weird.
I don't know then. I'm not experienced with setting the weights.
Yeah, neither am I.
Let me see this question. Hey guys, anyone know where I can learn distance matching for UE5? Yes. Outcast Dev School.
Yep. I'm getting to covering that in my current Locomotion series. So if you go look at this YouTube channel that you're watching the stream on, you'll see my advanced character Locomotion series playlist, and it would take a while to get to it, but we are getting to distance matching now. I've covered starts and stops. The pivot video will be out this weekend, and the reason we take so long to get there is because I reuse a lot of the techniques in distance matching that I establish in like the cycle state, where a lot of time is spent, such as selecting animations based on direction, or even calculating a direction enumerator. So it all kind of builds up to make the distance match states much simpler in terms of the amount of videos it takes to get through each one. But that series will ramp up to distance matching, but also give you the rest of the system too. I might make some like dedicated, quicker videos on just how to get distance matching working, and just cover the fundamentals of the nodes and how they work, because that would be less of an ask for anyone searching for the information. I wouldn't, be asking them to watch through 10, 15 to 30-minute videos before they get to the distance matching stuff. So.
Yeah, and I interpret that question to mean, how can you learn to implement it? As for learning how to code it, That, I don't think there are any resources on YouTube for that, but I don't know that there's a huge desire for that either.
Okay, so I'm just gonna.
So let me answer. So the Found Studio says you. So you are saying that data is really good. So if you use mocap data, you would want to have really good blending. You don't need to if you have a lot of coverage. Using blend spaces allows you to have a lot of coverage without having a lot of data. So in one blend space, I can have, well, it depends, but you have what, like 8 animation sequences in it, but you can get the full, like, infinite coverage in that locomotion plane for that particular state with very few animation assets and short animation assets at that. So blending in a blend space has its place, but if you are AAA Studio or you have your own animation, you have access to creating your own animation somehow, you don't need to use blend spaces. Though I am a huge proponent of them because they allow you to really get that infinite coverage for that, whatever you built your animations for.
The stop blend spaces were set to loop, and that was affecting the way that the trajectory was being generated in the motion database.
Oh, shoot. I didn't realize that. I guess it wouldn't affect things normally.
It wouldn't, but because of the trajectory.
Oh, that's kind of weird looking. Why does it? Oh, your foot placement node.
Yeah.
Why is it doing that?
I'll get rid of stop to idle.
Oh, you think it's blending out?
I'm not sure. Yep, it was blending out into idle.
So those are motion match stops right there?
Yep.
Dang, that looks pretty good if I say so myself with my animation. Look at that. That's nice.
I'll throw the idle in so that has some coverage as well.
Oh, that's smart. Just chuck stuff in. Awesome. Oh, yeah, you probably want to change that, 100 and 200, 300. Just kidding.
Okay.
I guess this is per quadrant, though. So it's...
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's probably compressing everything right now, so it may not work.
Yeah.
Compressing, probably not the right term, but... Yeah, it's probably good enough. Sometimes it takes a while to... Why is it looking like that? What the heck?
Oh, we can't exit the stop state. I got rid of the transition.
Oh. Okay. Well, at least we know it works.
Yep.
And it looks pretty nice with the...
It's actually managing to create a loop out of a stop animation.
That's funny. This is just stop. Dang. Yep. Wow, Daniel Holden improved... Wow, that foot placement node's really doing its work, but
yeah,
Daniel Holden has been doing a good job on this stuff.
Okay, so I'm going to...
Dang.
I'll just exit out if the ground speed is equal to 0.
I don't even think that will look good.
I don't think it will either.
I think it'll exit too early because there's like a recovery. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I guess the point... Oh, wow. Well, everyone can see you messing around with this.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, if you want to use distance matching, use my plugin. If you want to use Epic's motion matching, you can use whatever you want if you have enough coverage, which...
Ryan's animations have a pretty good amount of coverage when you're trying to take animations meant to be able to be used with the traditional animation system and use some of the motion matching functionality with them. It's not going to be as perfect as a pack with dedicated motion matching coverage, but because of the blend spaces, it can work. You can get pretty far with it with motion matching compared to like even the Lyra animation set. You just get a lot more coverage.
Lyra's horrible for motion matching. And I would say my pack, I need to add just a few more things, and then I think it would actually be, because it's almost made for motion matching. The things I need are, I need maybe some snake paths, like S paths, some walking in a square, walking in a diamond, walking / jogging in a circle. There's more things to add, but what I have is good. I just need to add more things. That is all. Now, how do I get the time to do that when I'm teaching and having another job? Well, yet to be determined. Oh, yeah, actually, I forgot to tell you, modifying those.
Mm-hmm.
There's another thing to modify that may help that I'm forgetting the name of it. Once you go back there, we'll see. I think it's the number of poses to hold in history. Or where is that? Oh no, wait, do they? Either I'm forgetting what it's called or max active blend. Okay, you have it at 4. I had it at 0 before and it did not work well.
that makes sense. Yeah, I think 4 is the default now.
Okay, I don't remember what it was before, but yeah, I've also messed with that, but I haven't figured out how much that affects the aesthetic.
Yeah.
But being able to change the play rate, you might want to change that actually for stops, because the play rate should be able to go as high as it needs to stop. Okay. So the play rate, you have the min max. Yeah. Min is 1 and max is, what is it?
It's 1.
Oh, they maxed it out at 3?
Yeah.
Well, that's dumb.
That should be more than enough, especially with motion matching.
Yeah, I wonder how that'll... I'm curious to see how that looks now. But this turned into a motion matching stream.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, your transition
is way too early.
For idle. Yeah.
Oh, it's not transitioning.
Oh, what?
I'm gonna pull the idle out of this database. So it can't transition right now.
So it's gonna just glitch out.
Yeah. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm really not sure.
But I'm happy that the pack is standing up against motion matching and working well. Standing up against the test. Oh, well, I don't know what there I said something and now it's like...
I tried using that automatic transition rule, but
that's what
because motion matching and how it's pulling different frames, it seems like that isn't the best idea.
Yeah, this might be a place to use the anim notifiers again. But that's kind of a pain.
Yeah, and I can try to see if I can get it to work, but I'm going to see if it can manage to work properly with this.
I wonder how that will work if motion matching pulls that information. No.
No.
Okay. It does not. Do you have notifies in your animations already for the stops?
Not in the stops.
Oh crap, that takes forever.
Yeah.
It only takes forever because I have so many stop animations.
I copied that.
You did. Or it looked like you did.
Probably just didn't hit one of the keys on my keyboard hard enough.
Wow, so I never thought of just doing what you're doing, copy and pasting it. Wow, see all the dumb things I don't do? I wonder why it takes me so long to get anything done. I'm just going to watch your streams more.
Well, I mean, even just a part of the last 2 I've done in probably over about a year or longer. But I am planning on doing some motion matching streams as I try to figure this out.
Will you be featuring my animation set, or are you going to use some
Probably, because it's the best I have for coverage-wise. I have a feeling I'll just struggle more than anything with Lyra.
Oh, yeah. I think it's still Did you put the notify thing in your transition rule?
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I didn't actually check with its timing with these.
Oh,
so
yeah.
That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's fine. That one's definitely fine.
They're all roughly the same length, so
yeah.
It should be. Otherwise, they wouldn't have blended in the blend space.
The backwards one was.
Backwards one's working, right? It's the forward one that looks bad.
Oh, okay.
Weird. It looks like it's set up well.
It's working now, almost.
The backward one does look pretty good, though.
Ooh, well, that was bad.
Yeah, that was bad. See, that
was worse.
The motion matching doesn't give consistent results with the stop state. I still prefer distance matching for stops.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for everyone watching, motion matching still is experimental, not even any sort of beta yet. They improved it a lot, but nothing was mentioned in the actual release notes for the 5.3 version of the engine. So it's still very much heavily under development, but a lot better and a lot more close to being functional. That was me going to a stop, not into the pivot state. So there's a bit of foot sliding, I think, during the blend.
Yeah, that's normal.
Back into start.
Yeah. Oh, start. Oh, I see. What the?
Yeah, it really doesn't know what to do with these pivot animations, but
yeah, the side-to-side ones. Yeah, the logic will have to be figured out for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was. They picked the wrong trajectory on that one.
Oh yeah, spin state with blend spaces.
Oh yeah,
that's would be great. How close? I mean, what's the current state of blend spaces and spins in your animation set with the 5.3 update? I don't remember, and I haven't looked at it yet, or tried.
I have full 360 coverage for jogging spins.
Okay.
In the blend spaces.
Then I'll have to eventually look at that and see if I can figure something out with it.
Yeah, I think it might be useful to use motion matching for that as well, but maybe not.
Yeah, I'm curious to try. Like,
it may not be necessary because I have blend spaces. You don't need motion matching for it.
Once I get to what I'll call the endpoint of the current Locomotion series, that will just be basic strafing. Really, all I have to do is distance match pivots, turn in place, jumping, a dedicated video on transitions, and sync markers and such. Perhaps some stuff on selecting animations based on which foot is higher for the animation that support that, and replication for the gate. And then I'll be finally done and move on to a different series and probably revisit that with after taking a break from the purely Locomotion stuff. So I'll finish with that series, and then by then maybe I'll be ready for motion matching. So maybe not a break from the Locomotion stuff, but I want to do like generalized interaction system, maybe combat too, is something I'd like to try making a series for with the gameplay ability system in combat, because that's, at least for single player, without doing everything completely properly with the gameplay ability system, because there isn't a lot of... In the last couple of months, I've been searching for gas tutorials for melee combat, kind of like a Souls-like approach to combat with the gameplay ability system, and there's been nothing good.
Yeah, there's a lot of crappy stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm at least doing a better job using the gameplay ability system to try to start on making something similar to a Souls-like structure, closer to Sekiro than Dark Souls. So that's part of I'm looking into that for the project that Ryan and I are working on together, and so what I learn, I'll probably try to extract and make a dedicated series on my channel for creating a melee system with the game playability system. But I'll probably try to do something a bit simpler before that to give myself more of a time buffer to get ahead on that before I actually start making videos.
Wow. So it started off as like, oh, I just have, as if you're going to list a few things. And then you listed like so many things.
Well, yeah, my brain started moving in that direction of what's next for my YouTube channel. And so it's just like 5 things, I think, 5 or 6 left for the strafing system. Not counting, you know, a 5.3 updated, looking at how motion matching can be applied to it. And then, of course, I still want to get to like animation layer blending, additives, stuff similar to what the advanced locomotion system does, playing montages, but covering more locomotion related, animation system related stuff using this locomotion system I'm making for that series. But I want to make those videos in a way where they don't rely on my locomotion system state machine for strafing underlying everything. Someone could like build that stuff on top of Lyra if they wanted to. I'm going to try to make it kind of agnostic to what animations and what kind of state machine setup you have running underneath, you know, what you decide to layer and blend on top of the right arm or the left arm. So it's going to technically be a new separate, that stuff is going to technically be part of a different series separate from the strafing locomotion, but I'll still be building on top of that strafing locomotion project.
Probably like bite-sized locomotion or something. You did bite-sized something in the past.
Yeah, I did like bite-sized UE5 back when like the early access Unreal Engine 5 stuff was out, and I was just grabbing all the documentation I could and pretty much paraphrasing the documentation in video form as it was coming out.
Yeah. And let's not forget about possible devlogs for us.
Yep. Ryan and I still want to do devlogs for the project we're working on.
Hopefully there's a desire to see those.
I think there will be. We'll probably have to find our audience among non-game developers as well. But yeah. When we do, there should be an audience.
Well, I think I'm going to have to get going.
Yep, I don't know. Yeah, if there's much more to cover for this stream, we kind of got to close to being complete as far as having strafing motion in the states. There's, of course, no turn in plays, but that's kind of outside of the scope of these streams and what we're looking at. And the pivots are almost working with motion matching, but
physical animations. Wow, that's what.
Oh yeah,
that'd be cool because that's something we want for our game too.
That's something I want to do. I've been wanting to look into that as something to apply on top of a locomotion system. I haven't had the time, but that's on my list. Probably after motion matching, I'll start looking at all the new physics animation stuff and seeing if I can get something that applies on top of a locomotion, so that we can like have secondary physics-based secondary motion applied on top of things. Yeah. And it really, like, I'm really curious to see how that affects things like transitions and blending. Because you could even set like transition blend times to 0 for everything and let the actual character with its muscle strength manage going from one pose to the other. Is a really cool thing with what you can get out of having physics applied over the top of something like that. So I'm very curious to experiment. I haven't done so yet. I think what I'm probably going to do for everyone watching who's going to be watching stuff on my channel is for like motion matching or physics-based movement, not physics-based movement, like physics secondary motion applied on top of animated locomotion. That's a mouthful. I'll probably do like R&D streams where I'm trying to figure things out and put things together that'll eventually be have dedicated videos that I'll eventually have dedicated videos for. But that way that'll be content related to that stuff in the meantime. And I don't have to have everything figured out to have something out, and it could be fun to discuss and just have some content out for people to see, and because I've been wanting to do more live streams too. So I think that's probably the approach I'll take with live streams on the channel going forward, is everything that's like work in progress and upcoming for dedicated videos, I'll if it's suited for experimenting with in a live stream, I'll do that, because that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all that said, I think I will probably end out the stream here. You guys can, of course, come and ask follow-up questions in either my Discord to Ryan or I, or in Ryan's Discord for his animation set and plugin. Ryan is in my Discord, I'm in his Discord, so if you're asking for wanting an answer from either or both, or one of us specifically, you can definitely ask in either. I'm a bit scatterbrained right now, so I'm sorry that I'm all over the place.
Seems everyone. Like a good time to end.
I know I'm not speaking very clearly, so yes, it is a good time to end.
But the Found Studio says 2024 is going to be a good time then. Yes.
Yep. Late 2023 and 2024. Streams first. I still want to keep up a weekly upload schedule, and I have plans, and it's going to be fun. So
I do too.
I'm not going to say much more. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, but I'm excited for things with the channel.
All right. Well,
all right. I'm just looking for the taskbar so I can open up my streaming software and end things out. So thanks for watching, everyone. And I was about to do an automatic YouTube video there. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to go ahead and end out the stream. Follow-up questions you guys can all ask in Discord. It's linked in the description below, and I can't stop myself from doing the YouTube outro, so I'll just end the stream now, because I'm not sure how to actually end this out. I usually go on and ramble at the ends, trying to figure out how to end my outros, and then I just fix it in the edit.
You're definitely rambling.
Yes, I know. Now I'm just playing into it for the humor. I'll just end it randomly now. See you all.